What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ride Review. We're doing an e-moto review today. Now we're at Micromobility America. So there's our Ride Review banner here. Micromobility is right inside the event center there. And then there's a big old test track back there with the OC Fairgrounds out here in Southern California. Now I have got the Land Energy District. All right, this is their electric motorcycle. There's two variants of it. There's a District Scrambler and a District Street. Now let's get this out of the way here so we can really appreciate this bike. There's so much fun stuff going on here. This is my first time getting to ride this, but they've been on my radar for quite a while. You know, as an electric motorcycle manufacturer that is doing some unique stuff, making a good product. I've gotten to see this bike at a couple shows before. This is my first time actually getting to ride it, and I'm having a blast. I've really enjoyed just the ride feel of this thing. There's a lot of very thoughtful design touches on here that we are, we'll try to cover as much of that in detail as we can here. One thing that I like about this bike is just the geometry of it, the feeling of it. I feel very good on here as a taller rider. I'm 6'3" tall. I'm a pretty big guy, and so especially on some electric motorcycles, they felt just too small for me, you know. And so this one actually feels good. We got the nice long seat. One thing that helps a lot for me is the handlebars on here, right? They're raised up a bit. It's a bit of a wider handlebar feel on here. Really a nice like Scrambler feel to it, which makes sense, of course, since this is the Scrambler. Now, of course, the downside to having the the wider bars and everything is if you're into lane splitting, lane filtering, especially we're here in California, you can do that here. That does make it a little bit harder. I was doing a little bit of that on my test ride today, and there was times where I was kind of worried, like, oh, I'm worried my mirrors are going to be hitting the car mirrors, which I have actually my own electric motorcycle. I own a Rivet Anthem, and so I'm going to be kind of making some comparisons and stuff here, talking about how what my test ride has felt like on this compared to my Anthem. They're quite a bit different. They're kind of in similar segments of the market. In terms of price, they're reasonably close to each other, and in terms of power too, kind of depends on like how you spec them, which the accessories and bonuses you get with them. Okay, let's do a quick rundown of the electronics on the District bikes here. So we've got the District Scrambler, right? There's also a District Street, but they're very similar bikes. It's on the same frame. The control system and everything is the same. The biggest difference, of course, is on the Scrambler. You get these tires that are more dual sport. You can take this off-road. You can still ride it on the street, of course. These are nice big thick tires too. This one feels more stable. The street version, narrower tires, smooth street tread, of course, so they're going to have better traction and efficiency on street. Can't really take those off-road, but that's really the main differences for it. Now the Scrambler, I think the default version for the Scrambler also comes without like all of the lights and everything that the street one does, but you can get the Scrambler one with all of that too. So if you do want to ride in both worlds, have it be street legal, you can do that. And these are fully street legal motorcycles. You need a motorcycle license to light it. They're DOT certified, CE and E-Mark certified as well. DOT is the US Department of Transportation. CE and E-Mark are European certifications here. So wide market reach for these, and 100% street legal. For the electronics on here, what's making it go, this is the battery right in here. Very easy to remove. This pops up. There's a few cords that come out. Nice grab handle. Pop it right out. There you go. So it's nice for if you do have multiple batteries, you want to do some battery swapping, or just for easier storage, charging, etc. These batteries don't have an onboard charger by default, but you can get them like that. If you have an onboard charger, then you can all you need is just a cord. You can plug it in, plug it into wall outlet, whatever. But by default, the charger is separate, so it's like a bigger and bulky unit. I think if you want to get the onboard charger, then you'd be looking at like $350 for that. And there are different sizes of these batteries too. I think we have the bigger one in here, which I believe is 4.8 kilowatt hour nominal or 5.5 kilowatt hour peak. Now that's pretty interesting. So I guess I'm gonna do a little detour here. Something I find interesting with LAND Moto here is that or Land Energy, I should say, is that they've got a lot of energy expertise, especially with the information that they provide about their batteries. Now, I've never heard like kilowatt hour peak and nominal for battery capacity. Typically it's just, oh, here's your kilowatt hours, that is the flat capacity. But they actually do have those two different levels. So nominal is just like kind of like what you can count on, like that's kind of like the minimum. But the peak measurement is kind of like optimal conditions. It's like it's fully charged, the battery's in excellent condition, it's nice weather out. If it's cold out, then your range is really gonna suffer with the battery. So it's really cool that they provide those figures, you know, just more, and I mean, they're smart batteries too. Like they have some really smart like IoT integrations here, so that you can use an app on your phone to like check your charge levels and stuff like that. Also use that for tracking. So if you want to, you know where your bike is, if somebody stole it, you know, it's a lot easier to recover having that. And they're doing some really cool stuff with like, you can integrate it into a microgrid if you lose power or something like that. It's fun to see these, I don't know, just these innovations, these ways of extending the power of, you know, it's not just an electric vehicle, you can use it for other things as well. Now the base battery on here is a 1.8 kilowatt hour. Which is, you know, a little bit small for an electric motorcycle. It kind of depends on what you're going to be using it for, right? If you're, you know, riding around town and you don't go very fast, you could probably get away with that. But if you had the 1.8 kilowatt hour battery and you were trying to ride at highway speed, 70 miles an hour, you're not going to get very far, like maybe 7-8 miles, not a lot. If you have the bigger battery, then you could do a lot more. You know, still not a ton. I think on their website they estimate around 23 or 25 miles at 70 miles per hour. So you know, this is not a highway bike, not like a long commute on the highway. If you got to do, you know, a couple short jumps on the highway as part of your longer commute that's mostly at a lower speed, this is going to work. But if you're trying to do like longer rides on the highway, not going to happen. It's hard to do that on most electric motorcycles anyways. You know, the Rivet Anthem does a little bit better at that. It's like you can get around 25 to 30 miles riding at, you know, around 70 miles per hour. More if you have the ASI controller, but still not a ton. And the motor on here, the motor and the drive system is something I'm really a fan of on here. It's a mid-drive motor. I believe it is a 11.5 kilowatt nominal and peaking all the way up at 17 kilowatts. So it's got like a lot of get up and go to it. To again, you know, draw a comparison with the Rivet Anthem, I believe it's a 14 kilowatt peak for the standard controller. Then they have an ASI controller upgrade that actually bumped that all the way up to 20. So the LAND here is, you know, kind of like right in the middle of that range. And this thing, I mean, it really rips. It's got some impressive torque to it. You can do an accidental wheelie and flip this thing if you are not paying attention. Like it's it has got the juice. Now for the actual drive system on here, they've got a jack shaft system here that is set up in such a way that it completely isolates the torque of the motor drive system from the suspension system. So you can see it in here. The jack shaft is this, right? So we've got the carbon belt right here that is coming back to the rear sprocket here, and then there's another belt up there that's actually going up to the motor. So since those two are isolated like that, what that means is that when your suspension is moving, you know, if you're going over bumps and stuff like that, it is not affecting the belts at all. And you know, their other bikes have chains on them. That's the original version, was that there was a belt going to the motor and then a chain going to the rear wheel, but they've, you know, since upgraded it so they have the belt on here, which is just a lot more durable, you know, less to worry about maintenance wise. But having the jack shaft in here with that isolated like that, that reduces the maintenance even if you do have the chain driven version, because it prevents the chain from getting like stretched or compressed as the suspension moves, which is typically what happens on a motorcycle. That's where a lot of the wear on the chain comes from. But here, since it's completely isolated like this, a lot more durable, a lot less to worry about with maintenance, and it's a better ride performance as well. It means when you are accelerating rapidly, you don't get squat. Squat is something that happens on a motorcycle when you accelerate rapidly and your rear suspension compresses, because those two systems typically can affect each other. So really nice, just tasteful design stuff. There's just so many little things on this bike that's like, wow, they really put a lot of thought into this. They do their own custom hubs. I mean, the entire wheel is custom. That's so that they could have a larger than standard hub back here. The bearings are better, require less maintenance. And they have, I mean, even their own brake rotor. Since they did their own hubs, they had to do their own brake rotor that would, you know, be set to mount on their wheels. So that's this. You know, it's got the LAND branding on it. The brakes on here feel really nice. They're doing a Magura hydraulic brakes, and I believe it's a 220 millimeter rotor back here, and we got a 255 up here on the front for excellent stopping power. I mean, the brakes on these things feel fantastic. One thing that takes a little bit of getting used to on these bikes is that both of the brakes are on the handlebars. So the right one, front wheel, which is going to feel familiar for a motorcycle rider, and then the left one is for your rear brake. So there's no foot brake. Typically on a motorcycle, you have a foot brake over here on the right side for the rear wheel, but they just put them both up there on the handlebars. So that's going to be like, that'd probably be the hardest adjustment if you are a seasoned motorcycle rider, is that you're going to be feeling for that foot brake, even though it's not there, but you can get used to it pretty quickly. You know, we don't have to have a clutch up here because we don't have to shift gears. But other than that brake thing, that's really the only non-standard motorcycle control thing on here. We've got a standard layout up here for the lights and the horn and the turn signals and everything, and you can press them in to click and cancel. So if you ride motorcycles, you're going to feel right at home as far as the control system goes. Oh, let's see what else. There's a few other things to talk about on here that one thing that's really fun with LAND is I feel like every time I see them at another show or something, they've done something else to improve or change the bike. They're constantly iterating on the designs. Like originally they had an air shock in the rear. They had partnered with Fox for an air shock back here, but since they've moved over to a coil shock, which I'm actually a fan of. Air can be maybe a little bit higher performing, but also just, I don't know, I feel like they're harder to maintain, and also like if you want to adjust them, this is a much easier setup. So I'm a fan of the coil change. I think that's a good move on their part. They've got a nice big suspension fork up here. I think it's 120 millimeters of travel up here and around 100 millimeters for the rear suspension, and it feels nice. Like I didn't get to do any off-roading on it, but going over like some speed bumps and stuff, feels great. Something else that's unique for these bikes is that the power modes or the drive modes have a very wide range to them. This is like a really good beginner bike for this reason, because when you are, put the kickstand up here, I'll give you a look at the display here. Grayscale LCD. It's got the backlighting. Try to position the camera so we can see it well out here. Hit this just to get it into. Oh, I have the kill switch. That's what it is. There we go. All right, so you can see I have it in drive mode 1 right here. There's 4 different drive modes. Drive mode 1 is, they're calling it like beginner or learner mode. When they first started making these, they called it e-bike mode. It would restrict the motor to 750 watts, top speed of 28 miles per hour, which is what you do for like a class 3 e-bike. But since then they've kind of gone away from that. It's really not an e-bike. I mean, this is it's a big heavy, it's DOT certified and everything. You really do need a motorcycle license if you're going to be riding it. So they've kind of transitioned e-bike mode over to just like beginner or learning mode. So when you have it in 1, it's pretty slow. It's not gonna, you can get up to around like 20-ish miles per hour. The throttle acceleration is not going to be overwhelming. So if you're just kind of getting the hang of it, great mode to start in. You can bump it up to 2, and the top speed is going to go up a little bit more after that. And then 3 is when you start getting into like true motorcycle mode. So for 3, you still have, I think it's a top speed of 70 miles per hour, and the torque is dialed back a little bit. And then if you go up to 4, then you are, you're maxed out. Maximum torque speed up to 75 miles per hour, and you can get there pretty quickly on this thing. I mean, it really flies. This was one thing that is quite a bit different from my Rivet Anthem, is that if you drop the throttle when you're sitting at a dead stop, you can do a wheelie, you can flip the bike on accident, you've got the power there. The Anthem, by contrast, they have it kind of like, I guess, software controlled so that the acceleration is a little bit more smoothed out. So even if you just hammer on the throttle, you're not going to do a wheelie, right? So that might be nice just in terms of like a safety perspective, especially if you're a little bit newer of a rider. But if you are a little bit more advanced, you want more power and acceleration, you want to be able to do a wheelie, you can do that on here. So that's, for someone who's an experienced rider, I like having more power on tap just by default on this. I think it feels awesome. The District is also, it's pretty loud. I was surprised by how loud it is. It's not a bad thing, actually. I really like how it sounds. It's got kind of a, almost like a jet engine sound to it. And so I'm not sure what it is that the sound comes from exactly, if that's like the drive system or maybe it's just the particular motor that they're using. But most of these electric motorcycles are pretty quiet. My Anthem is like, it's basically silent other than just the sound of the tires on the road, which can be a nice thing in terms of it's not obnoxious for the neighbors or whatever. But it's turned out to also be kind of a downside because nobody can hear me. The cars around me can't hear me. It always catches people off guard when they see me go by because they just hear absolutely nothing. So I actually like you know, having just that a little bit more of an auditory presence so that people know that you're on the road. And I do really love how it sounds. Like it definitely adds to the experience when you hit the throttle off the light and you just take off and you can feel it like, it's such a nice sound. Now let's talk about like the pricing for the different versions on here. Now this is, I mean, there's not a ton of electric motorcycles out there, at least for like, good established ones, but some of them are pretty expensive. Harley's got their live wires, which are just crazy expensive. You're paying what, like 25, 30,000 or more for an electric motorcycle there. There's Zero motorcycles, which are still, pretty pricey, and even their base ones are, I don't know what, around like 10K or something like that. Rivet's kind of set a standard in terms of pricing for theirs that are, $6,500 for an Anthem, $6,000 for an Outset. So the District here is pretty close for that for the entry level. It's $7,000 just to get you started. For the base model, which is the 1.8 kilowatt hour battery, the standard battery pack. And that one's, I think I mentioned it's going to be a little bit limited on range, especially if you're doing, high-speed riding. If you're, more like, neighborhood streets, lower speed stuff, it would probably be okay for you. But if you really want to ride this thing like a motorcycle, I think you're going to have to spring for the bigger battery pack options. If you want the largest one, which is the, 4.8 kilowatt nominal, 5.5 kilowatt hour peak battery, I believe that's an extra $1,500, so you're up to about $8,500 total. And then if you want the onboard charger, so that you can just easily plug it in and charge it anywhere, that's I think an extra $350. So if you want to really kit this thing out and get it nice and powerful, the price is going to start ticking up there. And then you got to remember, this is a motorcycle, so you're going to have to get it registered, and that involves like paying sales tax and everything else. You're gonna have to get insurance. So the price does start to tick up, but I mean, that's not, unique to Land. That's, the way it is with, pretty much any electric motorcycle. For my Anthem, I had to, I don't know, I probably paid around $1,000 to $1,200 and everything for, like taxes, registration, getting my insurance for the first year and everything. So, there's kind of that post-sales stuff. And if you don't have a motorcycle license yet, you're gonna have to do that. You should really do the, the MSF, like the safety courses and stuff. So that would be, $200 or $300. So there's some additional cost for, getting in with the ownership. But the nice thing about a bike like this is once you have it, the cost of ownership is so incredibly low. There's very little maintenance that you have to do, especially compared to a gas motorcycle where there's just so many little maintenance things, oil changes and stuff like that. You don't have to do any of that on here. You don't have to worry about, chain tensioning and maintenance, especially on the newer models that have the Gates carbon belt drive and the carbon belt, drive to the motor itself. I mean, this is, I think they said you can get around 20,000 miles of riding on this belt here before you have to worry about changing it, which is fantastic. Land also has some really good cargo options. We looked at some of the bags that were on the street version. They have a rack and like top box setup that you can get for, it's really $200 or $300 for the rack and the cargo box, which is that's pretty cheap. Like if you've ever had to buy like motorcycle luggage accessories, they can get pretty dang pricey. So I like that they have that. The rack it kind of like mounts right under here. So if you want to do like the side bags and stuff, they're very modular too. So if you want to get just the rack and then put your own cargo accessories on there, you'll be able to mount pretty much anything. I think they've done a good job on that point if you want to make this into a little bit more of a workhorse, be able to commute and actually haul some stuff along with you. That's one place where Rivet hasn't really quite dialed it in yet. Their first edition rack for the Anthem was a little bit flimsy and ended up not bearing weight very well, so they're working on a version 2 that's not quite here yet, and so I can't really haul a lot of stuff on my Anthem. If I do, I got to put it into a backpack. All right, we are going to go out for a little adventure. The test track here is pretty good, but to really properly test out an electric motorcycle, we've got to take it out onto the street. Like let's go ride with some traffic. Let's go somewhere we can get a little bit more speed going and see how it does. All right, we're gonna bump into level 4 and do it to it. I love the geometry of this bike. Like it's got a nice long seat. It actually feels big enough for me. lanes. We can lane split, we can lane filter. What is around here. Not familiar with this part of town or anything in this city, so we're just going to explore a bit. Really nice feel, brakes, the stopping power, very good. Just the way the bike is balanced, everything about the ride feeling, like this is very well dialed in. Alrighty folks, so that is about it for my video today. This is kind of like a mini review. You know, I didn't get to spend as much time with this bike as I would like to. I'm hoping to do, you know, a little bit more in-depth stuff with it in the future, but just in terms of, you know, first impressions, getting to spend a little bit of time with it, I really like this thing. Like, I think Land Energy has done an awesome job. I think there's so many little design touches that you can see, like, oh, wow, these guys, they're good engineers, they're good designers, they put a lot of thought into this. You know, there's so much love that has been poured into this design, and to see the design just keep improving every time that I run into them at a different show. And, you know, also just getting to, you know, ride a motorcycle from a company that is actually making them here. You know, these are designed and built in Cleveland, Ohio. So you are supporting an American company if you do decide to, you know, get one of these things. I love that we're starting to see that more and more with electric motorcycles, you know, and that also, you know, improves the support experience, you know, after purchase. If you need help and support with it, having a company that is based here makes that process just so much more seamless. Alrighty, my friends, so thanks so much for, you know, watching this video. If you have questions about this bike, let me know down in the comments section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Alright friends, ride safe out there. Catch you in the next video.